A few years ago, I was at a knowledge management conference, and during the break in the morning, I got talking to an old friend of mine, a guy called Ron Young. He's a very well-known knowledge management consultant. In fact, he was the guy who actually introduced me to the concept of knowledge management back in about 1995. And Ron explained to me that he had come to the conclusion that people didn't share their knowledge for altruistic reasons, that they shared their knowledge for what was in it for them. And at the time, I didn't agree with him. And although we're good friends, we had quite a heated debate about this, and we sort of agreed not to agree, and we left and moved on. But that was running through my mind for the rest of the day. You know, why? The fundamental question is, why do people share? That was the question that he had effectively posed for me. And I think it was in a break at lunchtime, I think, a young woman approached me and said, David, I received your knowledge letter. I enjoy your knowledge letter. I'm a student. I'm studying knowledge management or whatever. I can't quite remember the details now. But she had to write a paper on knowledge sharing. And she wanted to pick my brain. So I might have spent over lunchtime, 10, 15 minutes talking with her and I guess giving her the benefit of my knowledge for what it was worth. And I came away, and because of this conversation with Ron, I asked the question of myself, why did I give that young woman the time? What was my motivation for spending 15 minutes of my time sharing my knowledge with her? And there were a few things that were kind of rather obvious. One, I like talking. I like sharing knowledge. I actually enjoy doing it. So that was one good reason, that there was something in it for me. It may have been intangible, but it was something for me nevertheless. I think the second thing as well is that in any conversation like that, I get to learn as well. Okay, it might seem that, you know, I was the expert, she was the student, she gets all the knowledge. No, it's not quite like that. I get a lot of knowledge as well. Here I was starting to get to understand how a young woman who hadn't spent any time working in industry, she was from a different culture, I've forgotten what it might have been now, so different background, learning her perspectives on why people shared and why they didn't, and why she was writing the paper, and how the educational system worked. That was knowledge for me. So this whole idea that this flow of knowledge was a two-way thing. And I thought, okay, it's again something else intangible in this exchange. And so I came to the conclusion that, yeah, we do actually trade our knowledge. I mean, that was the first big lesson, that this was actually a trade, but it wasn't an explicit trade, and it wasn't a manipulative trade. It was something that was just happening naturally. I was kind of looking as to what was in it for me, and there was something there in it for me, as I explained. So that was really the first thing, is recognizing that there is a trade going on. It's an unconscious trade, and it's also a trade in intangibles. The benefits for me, just like the enjoyment of having the conversation, it's a very intangible benefit. It's something you don't normally stop to think about. And I guess that was the lesson for me, is that when you go into a conversation with somebody, let's say I approach somebody and I want their help, it makes a lot more sense, or I'm a lot more likely to be successful in getting their help if I stop and consciously think about what that trade is. I'm asking somebody to give me some of their time and some of their knowledge and some of their experience. Why should they do that? What's in it for them, especially if they're busy working against a tight deadline and they don't know me from Adam, maybe? Why should they do that? And so if when I approach them, again, in some way, I just make it clear maybe what's in it for them. And again, this isn't sort of a nasty sort of trade. It's a very kind of personal sort of trade. If I take the time to communicate to them maybe how I can help them, then I'm much more likely to get to work with them.